Hello, everyone. How's it going? I am Crendor, and we're back with another episode of the Crencast. Last time I made one of these was Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Thanksgiving. So it's been a few weeks. This is the 5th episode I've done, and I don't know. I don't like numbering them. I stopped numbering them the last time because I don't like when someone sees like the number and they're like, there's episode 8. Well, I've only caught up to episode 5. So, I can't watch this one until I get caught up. It's more like, hey, it's Crencast, Crendor rants about this thing, and you're like, all right, I'll hear Crendor rant about that thing. So there's a psychological aspect to it. So that's why I'm doing it this way now. Either way, how's it going? I've been recording some World of Warcraft ASMR stuff, and I love it. I didn't realize how cool some of the World of Warcraft ambient noises really were until you just turn off the music, you turn off all the other sounds aside from ambient noise. I love it. It's really relaxing. So I'm going to be putting that up in the next couple of days. Really excited about that. Because I love ASMR. I use it to fall asleep. Sometimes I'll listen to this podcast to fall asleep. So, podcast and ASMR, it's essentially just what I do. And it just... I don't know, it helps relax people. That and like streaming, watching streams, video, like whatever it is, I'm pretty much just helping people fall asleep in the end of things. But I also need that to help myself fall asleep. So it all works itself full circle. What's been going on? YouTube Rewind. Everyone's freaking out about YouTube Rewind, dude. YouTube Rewind's never been good to me. Everyone's like, this YouTube Rewind this year has just been the worst YouTube Rewind I've ever seen. I'm like, none of them are good. Like maybe some of you like them, but me personally, to me, they're like if the Disney Channel took all the YouTubers that I don't know and then made a little like Disney clip. I like go watch Disney Channel. All right, go to your local Disney Channel, turn it on, and then tell me that that's not like YouTube Rewind, because it is. It's like all the Disney stars are just driving around in a van. They're just like, everybody's having a good time, and we're singing because we're getting paid money. Yeah. It's so cringy. That's what I hate about it. It's so cringy. That's why, the 2006 versus 2016, I put up one of those, where I put up my 2006 like yearbook photo. It was either 2006 or 7. That photo I took, but either way, it was me very close to that time period, and I looked like a very good kid, not getting into any troubles, just in high school, being like, oh boy, I can't wait to go play the World of Warcraft. And then there's a hobo hipster me 10 years later, just being like, yo, I love wine. So that's quite the change in my life. I don't think I could even do a podcast like this back then. I definitely wasn't confident enough in myself. I didn't know myself. Just so many things. That's why a lot of people, when I put that, like, I was like, man, I was so cringy back then. They're like, Crendor, you're still cringy. Like, no, dude. As someone who was extremely cringy, I know what cringy is, all right? Like, I have at least some social skills now. Back then, I had never gone on a date. I'd never even gone on a date back then, all right? I didn't even have any, like, interaction with other human beings outside of World of Warcraft, practically. There was, like, a couple people I talked to at school, and that was it. Now I'm, like, I go to conventions, I talk to fans, I talk to actual people, I got a girlfriend, I have like many friends I actually go do stuff with. I actually go to like restaurants and bars, and I'm like, hey. It's just, I don't know. You just grow and you change. Even like when I was reading my tweets, because there's a way you can like go to your backlog of your tweets, and I was looking at tweets I made, even just like 4 years ago. Even just like 4 years ago, I was so cringy back then. I would say things like on Twitter, I would tweet things like, I'm bored. And I'm like, I would never do that now. I would never actually tweet that, because I'm like, nobody cares. Nobody cares, me. All right? Don't tweet that. That's dumb. At least if I tweet it now, I'm going to mask it in some sort of funny humor, some sort of humorous tweet that I can craft up, you know? And if I do, let me make this. So I've been making a lot of, if you follow me on Twitter, I've been making a lot of cringy types of videos lately, which is like me eating a peppermint, me drinking a Capri Sun. And I'm not just doing this because I'm like, oh boy, I bet everyone would love to see me drink a Capri Sun right now. This will be funny. I'm doing it because I saw Tim Heidecker, Tim and Eric, I love Tim and Eric, is one of my favorite comedic styles. It reminds me of just me and Benji, if you know who Benji is. That's the type of stuff we do. And it's essentially anti-humor, where you're making fun of people that do that. So you're adding another layer to the humor, essentially. And he made a video on Instagram of him just being like, "Hey guys, I'm just going to show you how to add a little bit of extra flavor to your turkey bird." He just takes some coffee grounds and some old coffee grounds, and he was just always like really close up to his face with his phone. Like it was hilarious to me. Some people don't like that humor. I like that humor. I love it. And so I was inspired to do stuff like that, and that's why I've been doing that. So I'm not just like, oh boy, watch me do a thing. Because a lot of people see it that way. I'm like, Crendor is so cringy. Like I know what I'm doing. All right. I am self-aware. I think one of the biggest things about becoming older is you become more self-aware. Like even compared to like 3 years ago, I think personally, I go back and I watch my older stuff, like my vlogs, or I'm vlogging my car, or I'm vlogging around my house or whatever, my old house, and it makes me so I just get uncomfortable because I'm like, I can't even remember myself being like that. And that's why I tweeted like, wow, I was so cringe back then. And I think part of it is that you develop very quickly throughout the years when you're younger. And I think once you reach about 25, I think that's when they say psychologically the brain stops developing as much. Or like that's you hit 25, your brain is done becoming an adult brain. I think that's when it starts to slow down. So obviously 5 years from now, I am going to be different, but it's not going to be as drastic as it was from like 20 to 25, if that makes sense, right? Because even just think from like 3rd to 5th grade, like I changed immensely from 3rd to 5th grade, even 5th to 6th grade. Like every year you grow at such a rapid rate when you're younger because that's how it's meant to be. And then you kind of hit adulthood and it slowly goes down a bit. And you're like, all right, you kind of grow into yourself, you grow into your own skin, and you're like, all right, I know who I am now. Some people don't still, even. Some people don't know who they are when they're like 60 years old, but I guess I'm lucky in that way. But yeah, what did I even start? YouTube, how did I get here? How did I get here from YouTube Rewind? Dear God. All right, back to YouTube Rewind. Yeah. It's like a Disney show. It's like every time I'd watch Disney Channel, it's like you got Selena Gomez isn't even on there anymore. But back when I would watch it, it's like Selena Gomez and like all these Disney people, and they're like, yeah, we're on a boat, we're in a car, we're going everywhere, woo, right? That's what it reminds me of. YouTube Rewind just reminds me of Disney making a show just with YouTubers. And I think that's dumb. I know probably the vast majority of YouTube enjoys that, but I don't enjoy that. So I don't care, right? We're going to talk about this on Cox and Crendor too. Jesse's like, I need to rant about YouTube Rewind. I'm like, me too, but I'm going to do it here first because he didn't want a podcast today. So I'm like, whatever, I'll rant now. I don't know. And I mean, so many people, this is the other thing. So many people are like, I can't believe I wasn't in YouTube Rewind. I deserve to be in it. Or like, I should have been in it. I'm a big YouTuber. Like, who cares? Why would you want to be in that? I could have like 30 million subscribers and I wouldn't want to be in YouTube Rewind. If they were like, hey, you're one of the biggest YouTubers around, you want to be on YouTube Rewind? I'd be like, no, I don't want to be on that stupid thing. I don't know. They got to get paid. I guarantee they have to get paid. There's no way they didn't get paid for that. Because, I mean, if I was like, no, I don't do it. And they're like, what if we paid you $100,000? Be like, all right, let's rewind, dude. Let's rewind the YouTube. Yeah, so there's no way they weren't or I'm like, what am I saying? They must have gotten paid, because I feel like none of them would have did it otherwise. Let's see, what else? What else? I think that's all I got in User Rewind. Let's move on. It's Christmas. Well, it's almost Christmas. It's the holiday season. I mean, it's snowing outside. I know if you're a Dodger fan, you've probably been watching their like Vlogmas, or even Aurelian and JP and all them, because they went to a cabin in Colorado. And of course, they're from Texas, they're from LA, so they're like, oh my God, it's snowing. This is unbelievable. But like, it snowed here a few days ago, and it's like, well, guess it's back. The snow's back. That's the one thing is like, I was kind of playing this out in my mind, is that a lot of people from the warm weather environments where it's just warm all year long go on vacations to cold places like Colorado, like, wow, it's snowing. And then people like me who are in cold places are like, wow, I want to go to a hot place for vacation. So you go to a hot place, then you come back and you're like, well, it's cold again. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's just the contrast of doing something that you're not normally used to. So obviously if you're used to the heat all the time, you're like, I want it to be cold. Or like if you're used to the cold all the time, you're like, wow, I miss the heat. It's just the thing that happens. One thing that does bother me though is weather ego. I don't know what it is, but people just get this thing called weather ego. I don't know if it's a real term, but I'm creating it right now. People get weather ego where they just feel this need to be like, I live in a harsher environment than you do. And it's like, why? Why do you do that? Right? I've done this in the past. I don't do it anymore because I realize that, and I'm like, what am I doing? This is dumb. So, for example, you're talking to your friend. They live in, say, Florida, and you live in Canada. And they're like, oh, man, it was so cold here the other night. It was like 60 degrees. And you're like, huh! 60 degrees, that's springtime. That's springtime for me. You know what it was? It was negative 500 here. That's what it was. You think that's cold. Come live where I live. It's negative 500. It's like, who cares? Right? Like in the grand scheme of things, who cares? Like, what are they going to be like? Oh man, dude, that is cold. It's like it's a weird ego trip people get. That's the same thing with heat. Like, oh man, it's like it's 100 degrees here. It's so hot. And it's like, oh yeah, over here in the Saudi desert, it's like 900 degrees. If you walk outside, your face melts. It's like, wow, cool. I'm glad I don't live there, so my face doesn't melt. It's like, yeah, bet you are. I don't know what it is, but people just have this. They have this urge to do that, even if it's like 1 degree. Like, yeah, it's 66 here. It's like 65 here. It's colder. I don't know. It's dumb. It's a dumb thing. But I think it's just people's need to feel important, or like feel more special than they already are, or more special than they already aren't. So it's like, it's the same as if you're like, oh yeah, I walk a mile to work. And it's like, yeah, well, I walk 5 miles to work. I wish I walked a mile to work. It's that type of thing. What is that? Is that just people feeling the need to be like, yeah, I work really hard, so you should respect me? I think it's a respect thing. It's got to be like, yeah, you should respect me because this is what I have to go through. It's a lot harder than you. You think that's rough, bro? You think that's difficult, bro? I do this thing and it's a lot harder. Like, it's got to be that. It's got to be. So, yeah. They seem like they're having a fun Colorado trip, though, so I'm glad for them. Let's see. And speaking of that, it's Christmas. Well, it's almost Christmas. It's the holiday season, and I always get sick. All right, let me tell you about my holiday seasons of late. So 2 years ago, I was just going along, being fine. I'm like, wow, I haven't been sick in a while. And New Year's Day came around. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And when that hit, I got a cold. And I had a cold for all of January. I felt really crappy for a week. And then I had a cough for a week. And then I was sore from the cough for a week. And then I was like, wow, I'm healed. And then I caught like the same cold or another cold again, and I just repeated all of it for another month in February. And I was like, that is the worst. That was the worst. I was like, 2 colds in a row in wintertime. Just so fun. Let me tell you, it is fun. Just sneezing and coughing and nonstop. And then I was like, all right, 2015 was getting a cold. I think I watched Harry Potter. So, I mean, it was the first time I ever like watched Harry Potter, like ever. And I was like, it's all right. I think it's a thing you got to grow up with, Harry Potter. Because I never read the books, I never watched the movies, and then Toaster Woman was like, I love Harry Potter, you gotta watch the things. I'm like, okay, so I watched it, but it was definitely one of those things where it's like, all right, I'd appreciate this a lot if I grew up with it, but as someone who didn't grow up with it, it's okay. Like, I appreciate the world. I think I love the world the most out of anything, but the actual story is like, all right, it's, you know, it's a story. What was I? Oh yeah, being sick. So I did that when I was sick. Then a year later, I'm like, okay, well, at least this new year, I'm going to be healthy for the new year, right? You know, last year I was sick for like 2 months. This year I'll be great. New Year's Day hits. I feel sick. I feel achy. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me again? I'm going to get the New Year plague again. And I'm just chilling. I'm like, all right, I'm probably just fighting off a cold. I'm drinking my sick tea. I'm taking vitamins. And then I look at my throat and it's got white patches all over it. And I'm like, shit, dude, that's not good. So I go to the walk-in clinic because it's like a weekend. Doctors' offices aren't open. They're already packed anyway. So like, we can book you in if you want to get an appointment a week and a half from now. I'm like, no, I'm good. So I'm like, all right, I'll go to a walk-in clinic. So I go there. I'm like, I think I have strep throat because this seems like a pretty common strep throat thing. They look at my throat. They feel my throat. They're like, yeah, it looks pretty swollen. You're feeling achy. Yeah, you look at like, yep, looks like you got strep throat there, bud. And I'm like, all right, well, I got strep throat. They're like, we're going to give you some antibiotics. We did a strep test. The initial strep test they did came back negative. But they're like, we did another one. A lot of times it's like various types of strep, and they need to go to a lab to get it done and whatever. I'm like, all right. So I start the antibiotics. They don't help. I'm like, I go to the pharmacist like 2 days later. I'm like, when did the antibiotics start working? And they're like, they should be working by now. And I was like, okay, good, but not good. And then the doctor, the walk-in clinic doctor called. They're like, yeah, so your strep test was negative for all types of strep, so you don't have that. And I was like, what do I have then? So I call my normal doctor and I'm like, please see me. And they're like, we are completely booked, but we will squeeze you in because you seem like you're dying. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you very much. So I go there. I'm getting like this terrible sore throat now. I'm achy. I'm tired. And he's just like, you ever have mono? And I'm like, no. And he's like, we're going to do a blood test. So they did a blood test. They're like, yeah, you got mono. And I'm like, oh, okay. How did I get rid of that? And he's like, it's a virus, so you just wait it out. And I'm like, okay. All right. But he's like, it's a mild case of mono, so it won't be too bad. It's not like full-blown mono. Because some people were being like, Crendor, I had mono and I was in the doctor's. I went to the hospital for like a month. And I'm like, So I was like, all right, mild case of mono. Nothing to fear here. I'm not even that tired. Like, everyone's like, oh my God, I slept like 30 hours when I had mono. I wasn't that tired. I'd fall asleep, right? I was still tired. Like, I was like, and I'd like drift off for a few hours or something. But I was never like, I slept forever. So I was like, okay, this isn't too bad. And then it hit. The sore throat hit easily, by far. Let me clarify this. I've had illnesses throughout my life. I'm not someone who's like, I never had a cold, I never had this thing. Like, growing up as a kid, I had strep throat, bronchitis, colds, flus. I'd get the flu like once a year. I had so many things. Migraines. I was not the healthiest kid. And I'm probably more healthy now than I was as a kid, to be honest. And I've had a lot of sore throats. This sore throat was the worst sore throat I think I've ever experienced in my life. I've had strep throat multiple times. It was awful. It was so bad. So with mono, the sore throat, it started kicking in. I'm like, all right, I'll just make my sick tea. I'll just gargle with the stuff. I'm just gonna do the things. And then I was just taking Advil just every 4 hours, and I would call them and I'd be like, can I take more than this many Advil? And they're like, no, you can't do that. It's not good for your stomach and your liver and whatever. And I'm like, okay, all right. And then I just every 4 hours, I would wake up from sleep and be like, pain, Advil, ugh, okay, and just like keep going. I could barely eat anything. I would mainly just eat soup because soup was like the only thing I could eat, and it was, oh my god. I remember at one point I like tweeted or I messaged, I think it was Jenna. I messaged Jenna, who's TB's wife, and I was like, Jenna, I would trade mono for a broken leg right now. And she's like, I don't think you know how bad a broken leg is. And I was like, oh, I do. I would trade it. I would trade it for this. Because at least then I'd feel all right. I just couldn't move. It's just like, oh my God. It was so bad. And then after, I think the one day it peaked, it was the Packers versus the Redskins in a playoff game. It was a wild card playoff game. And normally I'm so excited for any Packer game. I'm like, yeah, it's a Packer game. I'm ready. I just woke up, set my alarm. I'm going to see this game. This will be fun. And then it happened. And I remember the night before we watched Harry Potter, and I asked Toaster Woman to look at my throat. And she is like, oh my God, that looks awful. And I was like, because like I couldn't even talk. And my throat was like so swollen that I could barely even swallow an Advil. And I was like, do I need to go to the emergency room? So I called the doctor and I was like, do I need to go to the emergency room? And he's like, normally your throat only swells shut if you're a kid, but since you're an adult, you should be fine. So yeah. So I was like, okay. And I woke up and it was like half an hour past when the Packer game started, and I didn't even care. I was just like, I just want Advil and water, and I just want to lay here, and I don't care what happens. But then I ended up watching it. I was like, oh, yay, they won. It was, oh my God, that was so bad. It was so bad. I would take like a cold for 3 months straight rather than have that again. Give up 2 months straight. I'll take it 3 months straight. God, if you've never had mono, you're lucky. What did that start from? Oh yeah, being sick every New Year. So yeah, that was 2 months with a cold in 2015. A month with mono in 2016. And then once it was gone, I was like, oh my God, it's like, it's a miracle. So I'm hoping that this 2017 is going to be a healthy year for me. I'm hoping this is the first year in a few years I can start it out healthy and be like, all right, I'm not dying. This is great. Let's go. So that'd be great. Or, it'll get it. I don't know how it could get worse. It could probably get worse, but I'm going to be positive and I'll be like, you know what? This is going to be a great new year. 2016. That should have been a metaphor. Me getting mono at the start of 2016 should have just been a metaphor for 2016. It's like, you know what? This is going to be an interesting year. Let me tell you that much. I'm happy we're moving on from it. And I think 2017 is going to be great. I think it's going to be good. I'll do another one of these before 2017, but I think it can't be worse than what at least the Cubs won the World Series this year, Who thought that'd happen? It would just take a really shitty year for the Cubs to actually win a World Series. So that's neat. I talked about everything I got on my little list here, so I might as well just go into the sports rant. Speaking of sports, let me just drink some water. How about that? NFL's getting to the playoff battles and everything. This is where it gets good. This is where any sport gets good, when it starts getting into the playoff battles. I love it. So right now, if we go to the NFL.com... Oh, by the way, fantasy football, I'm in Sinvicta and like some fans and stuff league. Is so frustrating because I would have won had I started Ben Roethlisberger. But I was like, he's going up against the Giants. They don't allow many passing yards. And Tyrod Taylor's playing Oakland. They give up like the 5th most passing yards in the NFL. I think I'll go with Tyrod Taylor. If I would have went with Ben Roethlisberger, I would have won. I would have made the playoffs. And I would have had a chance of winning some money. But it didn't happen. And I'm like, well, I overthought it. I overcoached myself. So that sucks. But I'm also in a fantasy league with Lula, who is Tali's wife. And she's really cool. And she was like, we need another person for our fantasy league. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I love sports. So I'm in first place in that league. And I think the playoffs are going to start the week after this week. And it's not for, this league isn't for money. The other one was. So I'm like, this one isn't though. So I'm like, all right, I'm still having fun with it. I at least have one league I can keep going in. I ended up being like 11. I'm like 10-1 right now or something. I don't know how I'm doing well. Anyway, in the actual NFL, the Oakland Raiders and the New England Patriots are both 10-2. Who'd have thought that? I think the last time the Raiders and the Patriots were good was when that Tom Brady fumble happened or whatever in the snow. Anyone remember that? That was some crazy stuff. Anyone that watches sports, that is? I don't know how long ago that was. How long ago was that? Was that like when he first started playing? Brady's snow fumble. There's like a forward pass. Yeah, the tuck rule. 2002. Oh my God. Yeah, it was 2002. Patriots beat the Raiders 16-13 in the divisional round. Oh my God, I hope they play each other again and it snows. That'd be amazing. I love when it snows in football games. That is the best. Any type of weather, rain, snow. Snow's the best though, because it's like everyone's slipping all over. It's like, ugh, they're bashing into each other. I love it. So yeah, I hope Patriots Raiders play each other again just in the snow. It can't be not in the snow. It has to be in the snow. Who else is doing well? Baltimore. Baltimore's actually up there. They were bad last year. That's because they were so beat up and injured. Houston's garbage, dude. I don't know how they're winning their division. I guess they're tied at the top. Packers just played them, and I'm like, dude, Packers aren't even playing that great, and they somehow beat Houston. Kansas City's actually not bad. Denver's doing all right. And then Miami and Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is going to beat out. Pittsburgh might beat out someone. Houston, I don't see Houston winning. I think the Colts or the Titans are definitely going to pass them up. I don't know which one will win it, but it's either going to be the Colts or the Titans. I love the Buffalo Bills, but it's because I feel so bad for them. I relate to them with the Cubs. They're kind of like the Cubs of football. It's just so sad. They were beating Oakland, and I was like, yeah, guys, come on, because I was watching, so obviously I was like playing their quarterback in fantasy football. So I was like, get me some points. And they had like a huge lead, and then they just blew it. They like gave up 26 straight points, and I'm like, guys, please, come on. It's the last time I ever trust them. So I felt bad for them because they're gonna be mediocre again. And then the Chargers. Chargers are so good, but they're only 5-7 somehow. I don't know. They seem to have like one of the best offenses in football. I guess because their defense is just really bad. That's got to be what it is. And somehow the Jets, the Browns, and the Jaguars are just so bad. I don't know how the Jaguars are still bad. They've like gotten good players. They just need to fire their coach. Their coach isn't that good. I used to like him. I don't like him anymore. Gus Bradley. Bengals are super injured. That's why they're shitty this year. Andy Dalton needs to go too. He's okay. He's an okay quarterback. He's kind of like Cutler. And then in the NFC, dude, the Cowboys at 11-1. I don't even like the Cowboys, but like they're doing pretty well. I got to give it up to the Cowboys. They're actually doing really well. And Seattle. God, I hate Seattle. Packers play Seattle this week too. I hope we crush them. I hope we just win. We don't even have to crush them. I just want to win. I hate the Seahawks. I know so many Seahawks fans too. And it's because we've had so many rivalries over the years with the Packers and the Seahawks. I feel like it's one of the big rivalries in football now. God, if you're a Seahawks fan, I'm looking forward to this game this week. Follow me on Twitter because I'm going to be ranting about it when they play each other. Detroit's actually in first place, but Detroit's also Detroit, so I feel like they're going to blow it somehow. The Falcons aren't that good. I don't think they're going to win it. I think Tampa Bay will take it from them. Giants are 8-4, but they're not even that good either. I think they're going to fall apart. And then Minnesota's been mediocre. Sam Bradford's not. He's not that good of a quarterback. Redskins are all right too. They have a good offense. Their defense isn't good. And then what is it? Cardinals, Saints, Eagles, Panthers. I don't think any of them will make it. The Bears and the 49ers, dude. The 49ers are just so bad. 49ers might be worse than the Browns. I think I'd take the Browns over the 49ers at this point. That's pretty sad. And the Browns haven't even won a game, and I think I'd still take the Browns. And that's the NFL. And aside from that, Cubs got Wade Davis from the Kansas City Royals, which I think is pretty neat because they lost Aroldis Chapman. He went back to the Yankees, and all the Cubs had to give up for Wade Davis was Jorge Soler. And I mean, that's not even that bad. We get a top tier closer. Getting up Soler. Soler was he's stuck in an outfield that was overcrowded. We didn't have any room for him. And he's a pretty good player. He's a cool guy. So I'm glad he gets to go play somewhere else, or at least DH. So that's good for him. White Sox have also been trading everyone they have and rebuilding their farm system. They're taking the Cubs route, which I think is a good idea. Pretty much everyone should just follow the Cubs route at this point. Just stock up your farm system and hope you train them up well. Then what else we got? Basketball. I've been watching a little basketball now that the Bulls have been playing all right and they got Dwayne Wade. Last couple of games, they've lost 3 in a row though, but they've been close games. That's been the disappointing part. They've lost really close games, but they beat Cleveland. I don't know. I think they'll be all right down the stretch. But I think Cleveland's still going to win everything. Them or Toronto. Toronto's pretty good. And in the West, it'll just Golden State and San Antonio. That's all it's going to be. So I mean, it doesn't even matter if the Bulls were to get really good because it's going to be Golden State, San Antonio, and whoever wins that championship game is just going to go on to win it all. So it's still fun to watch the Bulls play with Dwayne Wade. And then in hockey, for all you hockey fans out there, don't worry, I know about hockey as well. I saw that hit the other night. The one dude got hit on was it Vancouver? I think it was the guy in Vancouver. He just got knocked out, legit lifeless body on the ice. And I was like, dear God. But I think it was a legal hit they ruled. But still, scary when you see that type of thing. I was at a game once. It was the Blackhawks versus the Red Wings. And I think it was Havlat. It was the first year that Blackhawks were back in the playoffs. And Havlat just got knocked out by Kronwall. Which are some really good hockey names, by the way. Havlat and Kronwall. Yeah, that's a weird thing to see someone actually get laid out and just be lifeless in front of you in real life. That's scary. Seeing hockey, Penguins, Rangers, Montreal, no surprises. Ottawa's good again. Columbus is good. Oh my, they were in last place last year. What happened there? Boston. All right. Boston, Washington, Philadelphia. It's pretty standard. Pretty standard in the East. New Jersey. How's Buffalo doing? They're doing okay. They're not completely terrible, but they're still not that good. I always pull for Buffalo because I knew people from Buffalo as well. It's the Bills and the Sabres are just, they're on the same level. I just want one of them to just win something. Help out Buffalo, dude. It's a sad, snowy, depressing place. Blackhawks, though, 37 points, top the West. Atop the entire NHL, actually. They're tied with Montreal for most points. Blackhawks, dude, they're like the Giants in the baseball Giants, where they're every even year they'd win a World Series. The Blackhawks pretty much every, 2010, 12, 14. Blackhawks are pretty much, every even year they win a Stanley Cup. So, I mean, they're due for one this year. Who else is there? St. Louis is the scariest team. St. Louis just kind of counters all the things the Blackhawks do. There's Minnesota. They're pretty good. Edmonton finally got good. They've had 10 years of first round draft picks. Finally, they all started playing well together. San Jose, Anaheim, they're always up there. Calgary and Winnipeg. Finally, Canada's got some teams playing in there. There's LA, Nashville, Dallas, Vancouver, Arizona, and Colorado. Sad affairs over there. I never like Vancouver anyway. Northern Lion likes Vancouver, saying he's like from Vancouver around there. They're not that good. I don't like them. They're kind of like the Seattle of hockey. They're pretty close to Seattle. So I mean, they had some Blackhawk rivalries. So I dislike a lot of the teams up there, but I like the area. Either way, that's all my sports talk. I always save it for the end. And yeah, that's all I got. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Crencast. I'll be putting this one up on SoundCloud. I put the last episode up a little late. I put it up like yesterday, which is like really late. So you haven't heard that one. It'll be up on SoundCloud too. I'll put a link in the description if you prefer to listen to this over there. And yeah. Okay. See ya.